Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooke Tannehill and I cannot believe that we are getting close to welcoming in 2022. This year has absolutely flown by. I created this tutorial because I was so excited when I found these super cute stainless steel champagne flutes that are perfect for celebrating the new year. And of course, I had to go with the classic black, gold, and silver color scheme that can typically be found at any New Year's Eve celebration. As always, all the products I use will be listed in the description below, and you may even find a coupon code or two that saves you some coin. Also, come join our exclusive Facebook group where you can take advantage of upcoming freebies and giveaways that you aren't going to want to miss. So without further hesitation, let's go ahead and get started. These cups have a very narrow opening, so to create a chuck, I just took masking tape and rolled it over and over again to get the right width to hold the cup, so you don't need any fancy adapters. Once I had the tape the right diameter to fit into the cup, I moved into Design Space to create the stencils for our polka dots. So this is a pretty easy process, but I wanted to show it in Design Space so that you guys were armed with the information. So I added a circle at 0.75 inches wide. Then I came in and added a square, changed the color so that I could see the difference between the square and the circle. And then I sized the square at 1 inch wide. So 1 inch wide and 1 inch long, just so that I didn't have any extra material around the circle that would cause me or prevent me from adding the amount of polka dots that I wanted. So size this correctly. And then what I did is after I got this size to 1 inch and then I aligned it. So you really want to make sure that you align this both vertically and horizontally so that the circle's as much in the center of the square as possible. I'm going to select all of them and then slice the circle out of the square. So you select all. I accidentally grouped this. I don't know what I was thinking, so I'm showing you this right here. But I'm going to come back in, select all, slice it, and what that's going to do is remove the circle out of the middle of the square. So I just sliced it so that I'm going to delete the red circle and the gray circle, and then we have the perfect stencil for our polka dots. Once I was happy with the stencil, I copied and pasted it about 15 or 20 times just so I had enough polka dots to go around the entire cup. And then I cut these out using the Decal stencil vinyl. It's like a film that makes it super easy to follow. And then we were ready to move to the next steps of the cup. So this is the fully prepped and sanded 6-ounce wine tumbler from Parish Tumblers. I spray painted it with a gloss black, let that dry for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'm coming in and applying the stencils that we had previously cut out. I'm not applying them with any rhyme or reason. I'm just kind of placing them every which way. I know it's kind of hard to see because of the black base, but there's no right or wrong here. One thing I do want to note is that when you get closer to the bottom where the cup starts to turn or curve, the stencil won't lay completely flat, but that's okay. We don't need perfectly laid down vinyl to get the look and feel that we're going for with the foils. If you've seen me apply foils before, you know that I love me some glue stick action. So all I'm doing is I'm taking my glue stick and completely filling in the center of the stencils that we cut. So nothing too fancy. Then I'm grabbing my weeding tweezers and applying the silver flake over the glue that we added to the center. Now, one thing I will say, the glue stick is my preferred method, but there are definitely other methods out there that you can use. You can use Tack It, you can use Mod Podge, but I prefer the glue stick because it is the fastest drying and I don't have to let the cup sit to the side for a couple hours before I move into epoxy. Now, because it is the fastest drying, you gotta work pretty diligently. So the glue stick pretty much dries within a couple minutes. So you really want to make sure that you're laying the glue down and placing the foil as quickly as possible. I mean, don't think you have to go super, super fast, but just pay attention to it because otherwise you'll have dry spots around the circle. Now, speaking of my impatient self, when I pulled the stencil vinyl off, it did lift some of the spray paints. Now, you can prevent this by just letting your cup either dry overnight after you spray paint it or for a couple of hours. I just let this dry for about 45 minutes to an hour and it just wasn't fully cured. So if you lift your vinyl and it does take away some of the spray paint, All you need to do is grab a black acrylic paint marker, which mine's sitting right there, and I will list mine in the description below, and just fill in those spaces with the marker. And I promise you will not be able to see them under epoxy. This is an amazing hack if you're impatient like me, that is really going to leave your cup looking seamless, even though you might have had a boo-boo here or there. Now for the polka dots, I'm kind of choosing every which one for the silver, because we will be coming in with another gold flake to fill in the other polka dots, but I'm not really following a pattern. It's just kind of willy-nilly wherever I kind of feel like putting a silver one, and then I'll complete the other ones with the gold flake. One thing I do want to mention here is that I am not using my chip brush yet. So the reason for this is that I really wanted the glue to fully dry while I'm applying all of the gold flake, and then I'm going to come in with the chip brush to remove any excess. And that's just to prevent the flakes from, or the flakes that like kind of come off of the cup, not to stick to any of the wet glue, and also give the glue a chance to really dry so that you don't have any like too many bare parts to the polka dots. So if you want it looking more distressed, then absolutely come in with the chip brush as soon as you're done and remove some of those places, and you'll have more of a distressed look with your polka dots. So I'm just continuing around the cup to fill it in with the glue stick and the gold flakes until I have everything nice and filled in and I'm happy with the coverage, and then it was time to move on to the next steps. Once all the foil had been applied and the stencil vinyl removed, I grabbed my chip brush and I pretty vigorously go over all of the foil on the cup in the polka dots. And I do this because I want to make sure to get off any excess foil, but also make sure that I'm creating a nice surface for the next design elements that we'll be adding to this design. Now, since we used the glue stick, we didn't have to wait to go into this step. So I mixed up 15 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy. I think you guys can tell if you've watched my previous tutorials that I'm obsessed with this stuff. But what I'm doing is I am just adding a pretty, like, I wouldn't say thin, but this maybe a moderate layer of epoxy over the entire cup. Now, since this is a spray painted base in most of the areas, granted not in the polka dots, you might have some gassing issues when you apply the epoxy over the top of it. And all that means is that you're gonna have like little dimples almost if you didn't let your spray paint dry long enough. But don't worry, if you come in with another layer of epoxy over the top of it, it will go away and you will not know the difference. Once that layer of epoxy is applied and torched, I'm grabbing Pirate's Booty from Boujie Glitter Boutique, and I am just adding enough glitter to cover the top of the medicine cup. So you can see right there. And the reason why I'm doing the glitter application this way is because it really cuts down on the amount of layers of epoxy you need after this. So by simply adding my glitter to the epoxy, it lays flatter, I get a smoother surface, and it reduces the amount of sanding that I need to do after this is applied. So I start at the bottom of the cup, and I know you can't see it, but I'm just trying to get some pretty even coverage. Since this is a little bit of a chunkier mix, it's kind of, I don't want to say hard, but it just takes some strategy to get an even coat over the bottom. So just apply your kind of little goops and then just use your finger to kind of tap them out to get that nice even coat. And then what I did is I started to make my way up the sides of the cup. Now, I didn't want this to look perfect. I didn't want it to look like there's a specific pattern. I just kind of want it to go every which way up the cup, kind of around the polka dots, over the polka dots. There's not a right or wrong reason, but I thought this little bit of sparkle just added a nice oomph to the design, and I thought it was really cute with the polka dots that we had created previously with the foils. I let that dry for about 4 to 6 hours, and then it was time to apply the decal. But for some reason, my camera didn't like me and it didn't record. But I will have the SVG for this listed in my Facebook group. But I really liked the vertical 2022 type decal. I will also link the vinyls I used in the description below. Then it was time to clean up the rim, and then I moved in to seal the vinyl with polyacrylic, and I did one final coat of a little extra ink epoxy, I used 10 milliliters, and this baby was done. This design is so simple, but I think it's perfect for any New Year's Eve celebration, and I hope this inspires you to make your own champagne flutes as you ring in the new year. As always, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you like this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see future videos. You can also ring the bell so you're notified of all future cup making goodies. Thank you again. I love you guys. Bye.